In this course, we will discuss the milestones of human development and all the theories that proposes how human development occurs over time. In this presentation, we will discuss the different theories of human development as well as how learning occurs over time. Siegmund and Ryder defines development as a systematic changes and continuities in the individual that occurs between conception and death, which encompasses three broad domains: physical, cognitive, and psychosocial development. One of the most influential theories of human development is the nature versus nurture debate. The nature versus nurture issue is the most important and most complex issue in the study of human development. Strong believers in nature stress that the importance of individual genetic makeup, universal maturational processes guided by genes, biological based predispositions built into genes over the course of evolution, and other biological influences. These advocates, according to Siegman and Ryder, are likely to claim that all normal children achieve the same developmental milestones at similar times because of the maturational forces that major changes in functions in late adulthood are biologically based. At that differences among children or adults are largely because of differences in genetic makeup and physiology. Many studies have also shown that human behavior characteristics are heavily influenced by hereditary. Conversely, the nurture side of this debate proclaims people's surroundings or external factors have a great impact on their human development. Strong believers in nurture claim experiences shape development. They would emphasize environment, the range of influences outside the person. According to Siegman and Ryder, nurture includes influences of the physical environment such as crowds, pollution, and other factors, as well as the social environment, for example, learning experiences, child rearing methods, peers, societal trends, and the cultural context in which a person develops. A strong believer in the nurture side of this debate would argue that human development can take many paths depending on the individual's experience over time. Many studies have shown that children's environment is also linked to their negative or positive educational performance and achievements as well. Another interesting theory of human development was proposed in 1933 by Sigmund Freud. He believed that children mature biologically. He proposed the psychoanalytic theory, the id, ego, and superego. According to Freud, at birth all psychic energy resides in the id, the impulsive, irrational, and selfish part of the personality whose mission is to satisfy the instincts. The id seeks immediate gratification even when biological needs cannot be realistically or appropriately met. The second component of this theory is the ego, the rational side of the individual that tries to find realistic ways of gratifying the instinct. The last component of Freud's theory is the superego. The individual internalizes moral standards. The superego develops from the ego as 3 to 6 year old children internalize or take on their own the moral standards and values of their parents. Once the superego emerges, children have a parental voice in their head that keeps them from violating society's rules and makes them feel guilty or ashamed if they do. So let's begin to discuss Piaget's 4 stages of. Another human development theory was proposed in 1968 by Erik Erikson. He proposes that human development occurs in 8 psychosocial stages. He also opposed Freud's theory of personality by insisting that personality is not set in stone. Freud's stages stopped with adolescence, whereas Erikson believed that psychosocial growth continues during the adult stages. Eric believed that humans everywhere experience 8 major psychosocial stages or conflicts during their lives. Whether the conflict of a particular stage is successfully resolved or not, the individual is pushed by both biological maturation and social demands into the next stage. However, the unsuccessful resolution of a conflict will influence how subsequent stages play out. Furthermore, another theory of learning or human development was proposed by Watson. Watson's behaviorism concept insists that human development and functioning should not be restricted to unobservable cognitive and emotional processes, but should include observation of overt behavior. In 1921, Watson conducted a study on a 11-month-old baby named Albert. The object of this experiment was to condition Albert to fear by introducing a white rat while collaboratively using the white rat with an extremely loud noise. Watson hoped that this experiment would highlight that people learn through a conditioning process. In this experiment, Albert became fearful of the white rat once Watson repeatedly introduced this white rat in collaboration with this loud noise. Watson noted that during this experiment that classical conditioning can contribute also to some phobias in humans. This experiment was Watson's attempt to explain why emphasis are placed on external behavior of people and their reactions towards personal situations rather their internal mental state of those people. Here is a visual illustration of how classical conditioning actually occurs through Watson's classical experiment. In this experiment, Watson actually concluded that a child's environment plays a vital role in his or her development, while parents are merely the molders of their child's behavior by maintaining a healthy balance between stimulus response association. In 1953, Skinner furthered Watson's behaviorism theory, proposing operant conditioning as a form of learning. Skinner insists learners' behavior increases or decreases depending on the consequences it produces. Skinner, like Watson, believed that the course of human development depends on the individual's learning experiences. Positive reinforcement occurs when a consequence strengthens a response or make it more likely to occur. In opposition, negative reinforcement occurs when a behavioral tendency is strengthened because of something unpleasant or undesirable is removed from the situation or is escaped or avoided after the behavior occurs. Here's an illustration of an operant conditioning chamber or Skinner's box. An operant conditioning chamber permits experimenters to study behavior conditioning by teaching a subject, such as a rat, to perform certain actions like pressing a lever in response to a specific stimuli, such as a light or sound signal. When the subject correctly performs the behavior, the chamber mechanism delivers food or another award. In some cases, the mechanism also delivers a punishment for a incorrect or missing response. Here, this proposes positive punishment, which occurs when an unpleasant stimuli is applied or added to the situation following a behavior, and negative punishment, which occurs when a desired stimulus is removed followed by the behavior. In 1986, Bandura evolved his. There are several experiments that demonstrate that young children model different types of behavior seen in their environment. However, the most famous experiment is the Bobble doll experiment, which was conducted by Bandura in 1963. In this famous study, Bandura studied children's behavior after watching an adult model act aggressively towards a Bobble doll. This study aimed to compare the effects of different types of models and medias on young children's inclination to follow the aggressive examples set by those models. The children that were exposed to the aggressive behavior did in fact exhibit aggression towards the doll when placed in the same room. However, the children who viewed the model being punished for the aggressive behavior did not exhibit as much aggression as the other groups. First, I'll provide a summary of Vygotsky's theory of learning. Discussing further Vygotsky's social cultural theory, he presents different. Lastly, evolved from Vygotsky's socio-cultural perspective is the zone of proximal development, which is the distance between children's actual developmental level and their potential level of development under adult guidance. According to Siegelman and Ryder, skills within the zones are ripe for development and are the skills at which instruction should be aimed. In opposition, skills outside of the zone are either well mastered or still too difficult. By calling attention to guided participation processes in the zone of proximal development, Vygotsky was actually rejecting Piaget's view of children as independent explorers in favor of the view that they learn more sophisticated cognitive strategies through their interactions with more mature thinkers. To Piaget, the child's level of cognitive development determines what he can learn. To Vygotsky, learning in collaboration with more knowledgeable companions drives cognitive development. In this lecture, we have discussed many theories of human development. So let's test your acquisition of this knowledge. The first question, this theory insists human development is best defined by an individual's heredity. This will actually be the nature side of the nature-nurture debate. The second question, Piaget believed that human development occurs in 8 psychosocial stages. This would actually be false. It was Erik Erikson who proposed the 8 psychosocial stages, whereas Piaget proposed 4 stages of cognitive development. Number 3, what year did Bandura revise his social learning theory and what aspects did he include? It was in 1986 that Bandura proposed the social cognitive theory, including factors such as a person's expectations and beliefs. Number 4, it was Vygotsky who highlighted positive and negative reinforcement during the learning process. This would actually be false. It was actually B.F. Skinner who proposed this theory. Moreover, number 5, what theories was more famous for his modeling theory of learning? This was actually Bandura. Number 6, what theories was known for operant conditioning or the development of operant conditioning? This would be B.F. Skinner. Number 7, what theories was known for classical conditioning? That would actually be Watson. Number 8, which theory proposed the zone of proximal development theory? It would be B. Vygotsky in 1978. The last and final question of this lecture surrounds operant conditioning and classical conditioning. Number 9, this type of learning occurs when an individual's behavior is modified by its antecedents and consequences. The answer to this would be A, operant conditioning, whereas classical conditioning, according to Siegelman and Ryder, is a simple form of learning in which a stimulus that initially had no effect on an individual comes to elicit a response through its association with a stimulus that already elicits the response.